Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here on a Piney podcast. Well, what's the latest? About 432 beer virus cases. Phil Murphy still not quite understanding the damage he's doing to local restaurants by reversing course for things completely out of their control and outside the state, by the way. You know, he's the governor of New Jersey. He's not the governor of the country. And it feels like we're slowly being walled off from the rest of the United States, doesn't it? Now there's 8 more states on the list of states that if you come from there, you have to be quarantined for 14 days here if you're visiting. Or at least that's a suggestion, and then things might happen if you don't do it. I don't like these vague decrees, Murphy, because it allows you to do things that are unconstitutional, like suddenly arrest people, or suddenly fine them, or suddenly take them to court. Kind of like the unconstitutional way you close down that gym, and we're going to end up paying for it because they're going to sue and they're going to win. But today, you know, everybody's gearing up for July 2nd because the casinos are going to open. Of course, you know, they get to open, and I'm sure their restaurants get to open. It's funny how all the big corporations open. Isn't that funny? Isn't that weird? It's almost if a guy who used to work for Goldman Sachs, who is now the governor of New Jersey, takes care of all these big businesses. Like, for instance, it just so happens that in the budget that was passed by the state of New Jersey, this private golf course, which had been trying to expand into Liberty Park for years and years and years and was stopped, somehow got permission this time around. Isn't that interesting? And Murphy, I don't know how that happened, was basically his response. Like, well, there's a lot going on. I'm too busy closing down your business to pay attention to their big business. Isn't that funny? Isn't it funny how that works? Isn't it funny how there are rules for some people and not rules for others? There's rules for you to stop your fun. Oh, but Phil Murphy's fun doesn't stop. Did you see the picture I showed yesterday of him inside a bar and or restaurant? It's funny, right? There's pictures all over the internet of him at that restaurant. Some of them are outside where he probably ate his dinner, but he did go inside where he wasn't social distancing. And yet he doesn't have to worry about a threat of something because he's the governor. Isn't that great? Isn't it great to be governor where you could just do what you want because you're a Goldman Sachs millionaire with 3 mansions? Isn't that great? You could just do whatever the hell you want. I started to follow a new Twitter feed. And again, I'm not encouraging you to get on Twitter. Twitter's a hellscape, so be warned. But there is a Twitter feed. It's called something like New Jersey Pandemic or something like that. Anyhow, they've been tweeting various things related to the Murphy administration, including one health administration. Apparently there is some sort of scandal where they were counting discharges as beer virus deaths. And this is kind of acknowledged in the voice recording of this official, and they're kind of laughing about it, and it's kind of a crazy mix-up, folks. So, I mean, you know, Murphy is counting on these numbers, but I don't have any faith in these numbers because these asshats haven't tested enough people, and they just crunch the numbers so they get the average they want. So the big number for Murphy is this transmission rate, which he has calculated in 3 counties to be 1.0, meaning that for each person infected, they've infected at least one other person. This is a pretty contagious disease. But overlooking that for a moment, it was down lower by his calculations. But how can we trust these calculations? These tests aren't exactly all that accurate. I mean, they're a good guide. I'm not saying don't do them. I'm saying you can't like trust it down to the number like he's doing. It's kind of a general number. Like, okay, things have been going down. And things still have been going down. All the other numbers are going down. And when you're talking about transmission rate, you're also talking about the transmission rate of a regular kind of beer virus, the kind that most people don't die from. The vast majority of the people recover. They have flu-like symptoms and they go on, especially if they're younger. Now, again, I'm not saying don't wear the mask. I'm not saying don't be wary of this, especially if you're old, especially if you have, underlying medical conditions. But we are in a situation here where people are going to lose their homes and businesses. And that stress is going to make them sick. And it's going to destroy their lives on top of everything else. There comes a time where you have to measure the risk with the reward. Will the reward, if Phil Murphy manages to stomp out the beer virus in the state of New Jersey, but we're in an economic decline for the next 10 years, will that be worth it? I don't think so. I think there's a balance here to maintain, and he's not maintaining it. And I don't think he's even concerned about our health, quite frankly. I think this is all politics. I think this is all about the upcoming election. And I think once Trump is reelected, this will all go out the window, because what good does it do him? What good will it do him for his reelection? Not much. And in fact, he's going to want that to go away instantly so people could start forgetting about it. So by the time he rolls around to 2021 and it's up for reelection, he wants that far in the distance so he can get reelected. Well, I'm here to keep reminding people, Phil, to remind people of the picture of you with your little mask on, taking pictures inside a bar when you told everybody to close their bars and go home. To remind everybody, you went on these BLM protests, shoulder to shoulder with people when you told other protesters, well, we might do something to you if you protest. See, certain kind of protesters are okay, the kind that Phil likes, but other kind of protests, not so much okay. Rules for thee, but not for me. That's the motto of tyrant Phil Murphy.